Welcome to HR with Heart. I am your host, Jemima House, and today we're exploring productivity without pressure. So I've got a few items for you. One is absolute gold. Stay till the end to make sure that you hear about how to do a clarity sweep, which will save you and your team hours of time, potentially, by getting to the root of what's important. So let's begin with acknowledging that many people absolutely thrive on a deadline. I get it. I do as well, but not all the time. So what tends to happen is people in business become absolutely chronically burnt out by high expectations of incredible performance. So there's a lot of background pressure. And what happens to the brain, and this is a human thing, it happens to all humans, this is not unique to any subset or demographic of people, it's a human thing. When we're stressed, our brains operate differently. So we go straight into black and white thinking. When we feel stressed and we feel pressure, even if our conscious mind is saying, I feel fine, I don't think there's any problem, I feel fine, we're rationalizing 9 times out of 10. So what happens is our ability to locate grey areas, to detect nuance, and our perception all narrows because our cognitive field starts to collapse when we're under pressure. Our risk tolerance shifts and the quality of our decisions dips. So stress isn't just emotional, it biologically reduces our executive function in the forebrain, and it makes relationships even more difficult because I'm sure, as you all know, relationships depend on understanding the nuance and being able to see more than one point of view at a time. So teams that operate under pressure much of the time tend to default to compliance and speed rather than creativity or good judgment. So this erodes innovation and it also increases hidden risk. What you can do about this one is you can do a quick 90-second capacity reset. Now, as leaders, I talk a lot about this. It's about who you are being. It's not about what you're saying. It's not only about what you're saying, but it is about who you are being. So if you yourself are under chronic stress and pressure, people can feel that. And it undermines any instruction you give. So your practical takeaway for this particular point is to take a breath. Take a full breath in and a long breath out. If you need to get out of your environment, step away from your desk and just step outside, then do that. Highly recommend that. The question you can give to yourself is, what outcome matters the most here? So in my private coaching with those clients, I often ask, what outcome do you want the most? Like, what's your strongest desire? In a work setting, what outcome matters the most here? Instantly centering creates clarity and increases the likelihood that you'll make a good decision. Point number 2, coherence, which you know I talk about in my coherent leadership model, which is brand new. Coherence creates performance without forcing. So there's no threatening here. There's no carrot and no stick. Curious. So coherence isn't being soft. It's being aligned. And that means that the body, the nervous system, the communication, the expectations and the priorities are all facing the same way. And when the leaders are coherent, the teams naturally follow suit. There's no cognitive dissonance. There's no feeling of something's off here, but there's an undercurrent of confidence. And what the outcome of that is that people do not need pressure to perform. Everybody wants to do a good job. They really, really do. It's a human given. Nobody wants to be watched over, surveilled. And when you develop coherence internally as a leader, your outcomes are faster prioritization, less rework, better strategic follow through, and higher psychological safety for your team, for the people that you look after. So, this is your practical takeaway. How do you run a clarity sweep? What is it? Okay, so this is something that you can do, again, internally. And once you've done this work with yourself, then you can translate it out to your team and do a version of it with them. But only if you've done it first. So your clarity sweep depends on you moving your body so that you can change your state. Again, like I've already said, step outside, breathe some fresh air, take a little walk down to the corner and ask yourself, what matters most this week? Who out of my team needs more clarity from me? Because if you're not giving out clarity, you'll just be giving out more and more directives with more and more urgency. And that is a vibe killer, I'm going to say. That people do not respond to that. People respond to clarity. So the next question that follows on from that is, where am I leaking urgency instead of clarity? This 5 minutes, if you will answer honestly, will save you hours of time. And once you've done it for yourself, I know that you're going to want to do it also for your team. The third thing I want to speak about is capacity as the new competitive advantage. So it's no longer about how many hours your people work, how hard they work, how much they struggle, how many things can they tick off. Your new KPI is your capacity and their capacity to respond and to get things done in ways that do not demand that they sacrifice their well-being. So their baseline has to be calm if this is going to work. High-performing systems are not tense because tension is brittle, and brittle breaks. High-performing systems are regulated, they're predictable, and they're focused. And of course, pressure spikes can happen, but the background energy, the baseline, has to be calm. So a practical takeaway that you can do for this particular point is a leadership capacity check-in. Again, It depends on your radical honesty. So you need to give yourself 5 minutes, even if you're sitting in your car. It doesn't matter where you are, but just 5 minutes so that you can come through with clarity and with honesty. Question: am I resourced enough to lead well today or this week? Focus: have I created space for thinking time? Impact: are my behaviours improving performance or just creating noise? So performance without pressure is not a fantasy. It's a discipline, and it's something that is normality within the coherent leadership framework. When leaders operate from coherence rather than chaos or performance, then they get to spend more of their time leading and less of their time policing their people's results. So a high performance within the business becomes a natural outcome, not a forced one. I've gone slightly over time. That was a very interesting topic. As always, if you have questions, please drop them in here wherever you're listening. I answer everything personally, and see you same time next week.